Hi, welcome to MBA360. This is something that every student who wants to pursue MBA should be really concerned about. We were looking at data of 23-25 and comparing with 25-26 as far as the fee increase in IIMs is concerned. And I'm sure if I'm talking of IIMs, every other B school also would possibly following the same path. So when we compare the 2 years fee increase, salary increase and inflation growth, what emerges is a very, very dark story. The dark story is always penalizing the student and benefiting the institution. Over the last 2 years, and by the way, this NIRF data, the data we are talking about is data that's given by these IIMs to the Government of India, to Ministry of Education for ranking purposes. And we started comparing the data of 23-25 to 25-26. So we're talking of 2-year gap is what we had. And some of the IIM salaries dropped by about 20-25%, while the fee increased by about 20%. And then you add to the inflation about 9-10% over the last 2 years, you actually have an extremely dark story going ahead. And if you like what I'm doing, if you like the kind of stories that we're doing, please subscribe to MBA360. It is very important for us to know that you are supporting us in the kind of work that we do, the kind of research that we do, so that we are fighting for you and we are ensuring that you take the right decision. Let me read out some data for you. And to generally tell you what exactly is happening here, the IIM fees has more than doubled. In fact, over the last 20 years, if you look at it, the IIM fees is increased by about 6 times to 7 times across the board. Before 2002 and now in 26, when you look at it about over the last 2.5 decades, the fee was what is 2 lakh rupees is now touching 30 lakh rupees in quite a few IIMs. And even the baby IIMs, they charge you about 20-25 lakh rupees. Whereas the outcome that they're talking of is about 12 lakh, 15 lakh rupees also. But all this is because they know that there is demographic push and they will always have student takers who will always first want to seek out IIMs before they seek out any other B school. They are essentially depending on the desperation of the student to get into a good B school. They don't take responsibility by themselves in terms of controlling costs. They push it onto the student because they know that there is a demographic push and they can always charge whatever fee they want to and the student will still come to them. And that is what they're playing upon. And even if the salaries, for example, look stable because they keep growing at 5-7%, it is more than eaten away by the kind of inflation that you have in the country, which is about 4-5%. The fee is increasing, the salaries are constant, the inflation is increasing. That is what the scenario is. And to that extent, the ROI is shrinking and shrinking dramatically. And it's not improving, by the way, it's shrinking. With higher fees and flat real salaries, the payback period for an MBA is getting longer. In fact, we did some study last year where we realized that even if you get into one of the baby IIMs, the time that you take to repay back your EMI is about 12 to 15 years. You take the bottom half of the students, because remember they always declare the top half, top 50% what is the kind of average salary and median salary. So we took the bottom half because even bottom half is a part of the IIM ecosystem. When we looked at that, the EMI payback period is about 12 to 15 years even when you get into an IIM in this country. That is a very, very sad story, and this is not how IIMs were conceived, how IIMs were conceptualized, and how IIMs were supposed to give back to the student and to the nation, right? And students are graduating with about 30 lakh rupees of loan in their hands. And what is the kind of salary they get? About 10 lakh, 12 lakh, 14 lakh. And the take home is less than about 70-75,000 rupees per month. And what they can repay back as an EMI is not even 25-30,000 rupees a month. And they have a 30 lakh rupee loan in their hand. Let me read out some data exactly of how it is panning out for you so that you exactly know why we are so concerned and why you, if you're an MBA aspirant, if you're a student, if you're believing in the demographic dividend of this nation, why you should be concerned about it. So when we look at the data of these 17 IIMs, of the 21, only 17 for which we have data, this is what it comes out to be. The approved intake over these 2 years from 22-23 to 23-25 went up by 15.27%. Actually, it's 936 seats is what it went up by. The admitted students went up by 14.76%, about 911 students. The number of students who graduated also went up by about 14.57%. So we're all in sync that about 15% is the growth in sanction index has increased, and to that extent the number of admitted students also went up by about 14.5-15%, and also the graduated students went up by 14.5-15%. And placed students went up by another 14.22%. So everything up to this point is correct in terms of the number of students that is happening, right? And this is where the real tragedy happens, because the median salary went down by 0.32%. What was about 21.36 lakh rupees earlier, 21.29 lakh. So essentially it went down by 0.32%. Now the other bigger problem that you actually face here is the average tuition fee across these 17 IIMs went up by 11.97%, and the inflation went up by about 9.2%. So what we have, which is a core number that we should all be looking at, not an increase in supply and increase in graduate students and all, but what happened at a cost level for the student. At a cost level for the student, the salary went down by 0.32%, the fee went up by 11.97%, the inflation went up by about 9.2%. So in all, the cost increased by 22% and the salary decreased by 0.32%. That is the story that we should be looking at. And when I go down into the details of the kind of IIMs where the massive increase in costs, whereas it's also followed by a steep decline in the median salary, IIM Amritsar tops the list. In IIM Amritsar, the fee was 15.2 lakh in 22-24, which went up to 18.1 lakh in 24-26 cycle, which is a 19% growth. Now, if you look at the median salary, it was 15.94 lakh in 22-23, down to 12.29 lakh, a drop of 3.65 lakh over 2 years, which is 23% drop. So we're talking about 23% drop in median salary and a 19% growth in the fee charged. Similarly, in IIM Bodh Gaya, over the 2 years, the median salary went down by 3.38 lakh, which is 22%, 21.81%. And the fee remained the constant, 17.97 lakh. IIM Raipur, the median salary went down by 1.6 lakh. It was 20 lakh in 22-23, which fell down to 18.4 lakh. What is 20 lakh? Fell down to 18.4 lakh, which is an 8% drop in median salary. The fee went up to 18 lakh rupees, which is 25.35% jump over the last 2 years, the 2 years that we're comparing here. Similarly, for IIM Vizag, the median salary went down from 16 lakh to 15 lakh, which is a 1 lakh drop or 6.25% drop. The fee went up by 18.48% from 15 lakh to 17.82 lakh. IIM Udaipur, the median salary went down from 18.53 lakh to 17 lakh, 17.09, which is a drop of 1 lakh 43,442, which is a 7.74% drop. And the fee went up by 11.33%. And it goes on. What we have is a list of schools where the median salary is dropping and dropping dramatically, whereas the fee increases by about 7, 10, 12% each year, and it compounds to about 20% kind of a growth in fees. So you actually have a 10%, 15% drop in median salary and 20% growth in fees. And they are unchecked in a certain sense. There is no one to question why it's happening. Maybe the board sits together and discusses, and then they say, okay, let's go ahead with it, because they know that the seats will still get filled in because IIMs is what students want to go. But is there some sense of responsibility? Even in the best IIMs that you have in the country, you actually are staring at a different problem altogether. The best IIMs, for example, they are increasing in median salary, but it's nowhere compensating with the increase in fee, and we're not even talking of inflation. Like for example, you take IIM Ahmedabad, the 22-23 cycle, the placement was 31 lakh rupees, which is now 33 lakh rupees, which is a growth of 6.45% in terms of median salary over the last 2 years. But the inflation is 9%. And the fee increase is about 7.5%. Similarly, for IIM Mumbai, what was 32 lakh has become 34 lakh as a fee. By the way, when it was NITI Mumbai, it was half the fees. You added the name IIM to it and doubled the fees. That's a separate story altogether for you. But you actually had a median salary increase by 6%. But the fee, which was 7.63 lakh when it was NITI Mumbai, is now 20.5 lakh rupees, which is a 168% growth in the fee itself. And then add to that the inflation. In IIM Sirmaur, 12.61 lakh was the median salary, which went up to 14.2 lakh. So it's a 12% growth. But again, you actually have a 6.5-7% growth in fees and about 9% growth in inflation also. So what you have is, even in the best IIM, the real income has fallen. The fee has grown, and the real income has fallen because it's not even compensated for the inflation growth that you have. Because none of these IIMs grew to the extent of inflation also, while they kept increasing the fees. This is something that we must work on, because you simply can't have data which tells you that the fee increase and the inflation contributed to 22% growth, whereas the real median salary drop, it's not growth by the way, drop is 0.38% across the 17 IIMs as an average I'm talking about. There is a 12% increase in the fee itself. There is a 9%, 9.5% growth in inflation. And then the real median salary across these 17 IIMs fell by 0.32%. So, which is a very, very big concern for all of us. This is the big story that IIMs, the fees have increased, the inflation is 9% more, but the median salary over the last 2 years has dropped by 0.32%. And some of the large IIMs or the baby IIMs or whatever you call them, has the median salary dropped by even 20%. And even the best IIMs that you have in the country haven't been able to grow their median salary to even match up to the inflation. That is the real story of IIMs at this point in time. I hope all of us look at it very, very carefully and understand how we can actually ensure that the burden on the student comes down, because this is not the direction that the IIM should be taking. Thank you so much. Namaste.